Well, I mean, while we're waiting for Warren, yes, just by the way, Frank, it is going to be recorded. And hi, Zena from Sunshine. I've spoken with you many times. And hi, Lorraine. Connor, we're talking about breaking the crypto myths. And this is a subject that you'll know a lot about. And Warren, clearly I'm here to help facilitate. But really just the objective today, everybody, is just have a really good, solid conversation around the myths that are out there around cryptos. It seems to be an area that is rapidly growing. As we know, it's something that's decentralized, and people who want to live a sovereign life and want to be able to master their life and their finances and look at a shared portfolio, crypto is something that many people are really getting into. So today we're going to be talking about crypto privacy, how it's decentralized, if it's 100% true to be decentralized, which you can help us there, Connor. But before we go in there, can you give us a little bit of a background about you and, how you got into cryptos, just while we're waiting for Warren, and where, you kind of fit in this space?
Absolutely. So, speak of the devil.
I end up on the wrong webinar. I end up on another webinar.
Warren, I did the same thing. I was sitting there waiting.
He's going, this is a different one. Oh. So I had to log all the way out, go into a whole different account and come back in again. So there you go.
All right, everyone, apologies for today. It must be the energy that we're all a little bit confused, but we do know what we're talking about when we're talking about crypto, so don't stress.
I think it's like, there's so many webinars happening now all the time that literally, I just saw the link. I just quickly logged in, jumped on and thought, great, and then here I am now.
I think, all right, guys, we're about to go live onto Facebook. So we are now live on Facebook.
Okay, excellent. Well, as I said, Warren, thank you for coming in. Connor Marshall, today it's our second webinar. It's all about cryptos this month, and today we're talking about breaking the myths of of crypto and really making sure that we're getting solid information that is true, tested, and also we've got to be agile in this area because times change and things change and laws change. So before we kind of get into a little bit more of a subject, Connor was just kind of about to introduce himself a little bit more about where he's come from and why he got into cryptos, just before we get into the questions and a little bit more of a Q&A.
Yeah, so thanks, Jasmine. My first experience with cryptocurrencies was actually thanks to the government and lockdowns. This is back a few years ago now when I was personal training. I've said to this some of you before, but we were kind of limited to, the last people to go back were gyms, nightclubs and brothels. So it was a great exclusive group to be a part of. But really, because I was locked down for 6 odd months, couldn't go back to work, I had nothing better to do than to start researching some more investments and maybe some ways of looking at passive income. So that's interesting because now I talk to a lot of people that are locked out of their workplace because they don't want to get vaccinated. And I can really relate to that because, especially something like cryptocurrency with a low barrier to entry and anyone can really get into it with a little bit of research. I can really relate to people on that level, but that's a little bit of a background about how I initially started getting into crypto.
Excellent. And Warren, since you're the star of the show, as always, could you give us...
I don't know about that, but...
How did you start cryptos? And, when you started, were you a little bit like, is this going to be legit? I mean, was it a process for you to learn? Are you still learning to this day?
Well, you're always still learning, Jasmine, but my story was funny. I as many of you know who watch my trolling Dr. Bill and just the fact that I say I assume everyone's stupid until proven otherwise, that's pretty much very true. So I assume something's a scam until it's proven otherwise. So I just assumed crypto was a scam because I'd seen digital currencies years ago. Most of them have been scammed. And I just thought, well, this is a fairly obvious scam and a fairly easy one to get money out of people. And then, so when it first came out, I just kind of go, yeah, whatever, just a very clever little scam. But in 2017, I had a financial advisor come to me as a client, and he was very awake, and he sort of mentioned, I said, crypto's a scam. He goes, mate, I've made 2.3 million. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, but because he's a financial advisor, he got my attention. He goes, no, let me explain to you. And he went through systematically, and I said, oh, okay. So he said, yeah, obviously there's scams, but he said, this is the real thing. He said, this is the change to digital financial age. And of course, I knew that was coming. And I said, hang on a sec, I think you're right. Yeah. He goes, do it. I'm right. So he had to pay me $5,000 for our advice at the time. He goes, I can give you the $5,000 in Bitcoin. And at the time, Bitcoin was worth $5,000. He said, I'll just give you Bitcoin. I said, okay. So he even sat down in Boat Shed Cafe in South Perth foreshore. He gave me a spare tracer he had. He helped me set the whole thing up from beginning to end. And that's got me started. Wow. And then my next foray into it was I had a client come to see me a couple of months later who'd made 30 million in 18 months. And I was like, this guy's knowledge was like through the roof. And I saved him a bit of tax legally by showing him things to do. So he said, I repaid a favor. I'll show you how to do cryptos and make money. And he sat down and taught me for hours. You know, we started spending time. We went to Panama together. And he put me into a crypto, which the first one he put me into, I think, made 100-fold or something. And yeah, he just basically was showing me different things and how to go safely into crypto and everything like that. And I never looked back, really. You know, he always kept telling me safety first. And I was waiting for all these get-rich-quick schemes. He goes, you'll get rich quick when you follow wisdom and you put your money in balanced, stable ways. So that's what he was doing with me, like really boring investing. And so a lot of the cryptos were really just kind of performing and holding the fort. But the one big one, he said to me, this is the one I am convinced is going to do very, very well. He goes, the rest of them is just part of a balanced portfolio. And the one he said was going to do very well made 100-fold. And I know he put like 6 figures into it himself. So he did pretty well.
All right. So put your hand up if you want to make $30 million in crypto.
No.
No, not at all. Of course we do. Aiden is raising his hand. So Aiden's going to manifest it. Awesome. So obviously we've got this event coming up on the 26th of February, and we're going to be able to cover, safety. What you just talked about is really important about setting yourself up correctly, structuring yourself up, because let's say the big dirty word and it's tax, right? Everybody doesn't like to pay taxes. Let's just be real. No one really wants to pay it. If and where they can, they want to get out of it. So cryptos are supposed to be unregulated and anonymous, unlike, your standard investments, precious gold, metal, silver, and, your income. I mean, is this true? Are the taxes actually different? Are they looked at as per normal from the government? What's happening in this space? I'm happy for you to both answer this, or whoever you feel is best. And people are really worried. I just had a few consults this week of people wanting to put their tax in, but they don't know what to do in the crypto space. Could you help us here?
Well, Connie, you can start, then I'll make my comments. I'll throw you in the deep end, mate.
Yeah, thanks for that, Warren. It's great for the guy with all this tax knowledge behind him to throw the ball to me straight away.
Absolutely, why not?
Absolutely, you are going to pay some form of taxes when it comes to your cryptocurrencies. I mean, unless there's legal ways to minimize your tax, and you can go down that route as well. At the end of the day, they are still assets. There are, slight differences in different cryptocurrencies and how they're viewed. We talked about this last week very briefly, but some are viewed more as currencies. Others can be more tokens of projects, and they might give you, governance over certain projects. So because it is so rapidly expanding within that field, and it's very hard to pinpoint what certain things are. It is still very all over the place when it comes to the taxation. Yeah. One thing you will realize, if you withdraw crypto to fiat, you probably will get chased up by the ATO for that. But it is definitely not something where you can just go along and not pay any taxes and you're never going to get found out, because eventually that is going to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
Look, the basic with cryptos, it's one of the biggest myths. I mean, cryptos took off originally because it was considered a decentralized kind of thing. People were like, yep, the government won't know. Nobody knows. We can move into tax oblivion and never get caught. And that was the original sell point. And of course, what's happened as time's gone on, the one obvious thing that people miss, which I always kept arguing at the time, is, well, that's all well and good if you're going to live in barter. But I said, from what I can see, people still want fiat currency. So until we can do barter, that's maybe different, but until we've got that, there's a fairly obvious track. And so what basically happened was people were just moving money and saying, oh, no, it can't be traced. I said, the moment it goes into fiat, someone's got details on it. So the other thing too is that cryptos is moving towards a mainstream regulation now, and it's moved more than just currency, it's moved into decentralized platform projects. So crypto is going to eventually go mainstream and have a fairly big run at some stage, no doubt. Unless governments completely regulate it out of existence. Taxes, I said, are always inevitable, but the ATO are not going to just let, a whole lot of money walk away from him without a fight. So The biggest problem with cryptos, I find, it's the worst area where people just don't structure because they assume that they don't need to. And even this week, I had somebody who I thought was quite, switched on, had just said, we're starting a new business. I said, no, I'll set up a structure in about 6 months once I've made some money. And I just kind of go like, I don't think you ever listened to anything I ever said to you since the day you were born and since we worked together, And a lot of people do that, and they kind of take the gamble that hopefully it won't get looked at. And if you don't get looked at, whatever, if you do get looked at and you come running to me going, oh my God, I've had everything in my own name. I've been told I could get taxed like 48%. It's like, well, yeah, you will be. So what do I do now? Well, you just got to pay it and then we'll just set you up right for future. So I cannot emphasize enough that right now, the number of people are running around, for example, trying to get mask exemptions and jab exemptions now, but now is a time the governments are going out, we don't want anyone getting it. And they basically told the doctors, you do this, then we'll deregister you. The time to be doing that was 9 months ago. That was a time when doctors and that would give them. And right now is the time when you can structure for cryptos. The time is all but run out because the ASIO have made it clear and look at closely. But yeah, the time is running out, so to get ready for the next boom. So if you're going to go into cryptos, for goodness sake, structure right from day one. It's like if you've got a car here, most of you are going to get car insurance because you're like, not because you necessarily plan to crash your car and not because you like the expenses, but you're like, well, if I do crash my car, I don't want to get a horrible third-party bill or a car crash bill or whatever else, or just a damaged car bill. Or you get health insurance because you don't want to suddenly get whacked with a whopping bill in the public health system or have your surgery cancelled at the last minute, because, they decide that the flu is going to, put a few more grannies in hospital than expected. So equally, it's the best time to plan is right now when you can do it. And in some months' time, no doubt, a large percentage of people listening to the webinars that I do will probably go, oh, shit, I should have listened to him. And that's just the truth. But hopefully, if a small percentage of people here who go into cryptos take action, that's better than nothing. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's right. So take action. Now, everyone, I can see some questions coming through, and to our team as well, if there are questions coming through on Facebook, if you could paste into the comment box for us at a later stage. We will answer a few at the end, but we just have a few other, key points we really want to get through because we were talking about myths. Now, you kind of did cover it that, is crypto kind of still directly linked to fiat if you don't actually transfer it over into fiat? I mean, can it be completely separate? I know there's talk about blockchain. I know that there's all these new inventions coming through and times are changing. But unless you're transferring it over, are they still directly linked?
Yeah, so you got to think about how most people are going to buy their first cryptocurrencies. Now, unless you're setting up a wallet or an exchange, and I'm talking a decentralized exchange where you don't have to register your own identity, the process of you trying to send money into the decentralized space, the chances are you're going to need to use a centralized platform anyway. So it's that process there where you're transferring from probably your private bank accounts into your verified customer accounts on public exchanges where they're able to tax things. So it's really irrelevant what you do with the money after. Even then, some ways they can still track it, but it's more so that first bridge. I mean, there's no real way around that currently. So how do you really separate them when everything's still, based on the dollar anyway within crypto?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you have anything to add there, Connor? Warren? Sorry, I wouldn't call you Connor.
Well, yeah, I mean, crypto, when it comes to fiat, you got to just come back to the whole nature of the way our system works. I mean, people by and large still want to think in terms of fiat. They just kind of go, fiat makes sense to me. I want cash. I want to buy a car. I want to go to my stripper in Vegas and she won't accept crypto. She'll only accept cash. Whatever people do. We live in this kind of economy where people, do this. So still right now, until we move some kind of major shift, and that will happen most likely the more that people get fed up with government censorships like Joe Rogan going off podcasts, and now already, there's been a couple of places like JP Sears and then, a Trump-based, Rumble have offered him $100 million to move over. You're going to see all that sort of stuff start happening. You're going to see blockchain decentralization take off a bit more. People will start moving into bartered kind of, systems and economies just because they'll go, shit, the government's just going to take all our money and this great reset is real, and then people will move. So, but yeah, so right now to me, we're still in a period of time where cryptos and fiat are going to be quite linked. And that may be the case in the near future, but well, we'll kind of, at some stage, we'll see it pulling away. It's just a question of whether, because like already Turkey, El Salvador are talking about making it a main currency and things like that. So I think by and large, you can safely assume if you live in Australia, like most people are, cryptos and fiat are going to be heavily linked because the government have pretty much said you have to put it in fiat and pay tax on it.
And just to add to that, Warren, I think there's 4 states in America now which are proposing to use Bitcoin as legal tender as well. I think it's unlikely that it'll happen in America first, but just the sheer fact that it is beginning to pop up in more areas as a proposed currency is probably a good sign for it long term.
Yes.
Yeah, wow, okay. So you kind of answered the question around decentralization and, where it is, if it's completely private or not, and you said it's going to hopefully go that way. But at this moment, it's really clear. Structures being set up correctly from the start. If you're wanting to get into cryptos is vital. Connor Marshall is the man in our team who's really leading that way and leading that space. And February 26th, our free event, you can register. The link will be below. Make sure you come along to that because all of the things we're talking about now, we're going to go into a lot more depth. And just to let everyone know here, Connor Marshall actually is going to be presenting at the event as well. It's 4 hours. It was 3, but Warren needs an extra hour because he is the man. He's the star of the show.
You wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I just think, but I know a bit more than some people. That's about it, really.
Yeah, of course. You have to, we're just having a play around here. So at the end of the day,
I want to be the star of the show because of my hot looks and my great ass. That's why I want to be star of the show.
And that is not a myth, everybody. That is
okay. Good.
Warren's worst fear is being liked purely just for his intelligence.
Exactly. Kind of like a brains. I want to be a bimbo. I want to have some bimbo part to my personality. Come on.
So please do come along to that event because you are going to be entertained and learn a lot. But yeah, Connor Marshall's going to be talking. Warren's going to be talking. We've got Vina. We're going to be announcing the 4th speaker next week because it's really amazing, but it's going to tie everything together. Now, let's talk about regulation and audits and the government targeting cryptocurrencies. We know we've been warned here in Australia. What other countries have we been seeing hit by this specifically, if any? And I guess for those who are in Australia right now or in countries that they are trying to use cryptos, I mean, should they be worried if they're not set up correctly now, if they've already started to make money? What can they do? What are the steps they can take?
So I think it's probably good to note that right now in Australia, cryptocurrencies are actually in a good position in terms of regulation. There are countries with less regulation and probably better policies towards it, but we could be in the same boat as China, which just has an outright ban on cryptocurrencies. I can't see Australia going that way purely because I think they're smart enough to realize that there's a lot of money they could make just on the taxation of cryptocurrencies. And that's something Warren said last week. The ATO is not going to jump at cryptocurrencies with where it's at now. It's $1.5 trillion across the entire market versus, gold's upwards of 10 trillion, and then you've got stock markets, which are hundreds of trillions. So, in the scheme of things, they're really just going to wait for it to progress to a big size. And then that's going to, when they really cash in. So that's why we're so big on doing what you can now in terms of structure and asset protection, because even though we have let's just say a degree of leniency right now within Australia, things are inevitably going to tighten up in that regard. There's no way around it, especially if we want more regulation towards the industry. It's going to be a lot harder to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. Warren, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Not really, no.
No, okay, no problems. Now, countries are creating their own digital currency. Is there any specific countries that are doing that at the moment that you know of?
Yeah, so China's released theirs this year. In January 4th, I think they released it. So I was actually doing some more research into it because other countries have tried to do a digital currency like Ecuador, but that failed a couple of years ago. And from my knowledge, it wasn't actually based on blockchain. And some of the stuff I was looking at was suggesting China's actually wasn't operating on blockchain either. And I was actually looking up a quote from the deputy head who is trying to push the project forward, and his name is D Gang. And he said that blockchain still faces a number of technical challenges, including that blockchain interconnectivity and standards for technical and application are insufficient. So he says blockchain scalability and performance, privacy and protection, information security, auditing and regulating to traditional financial systems are all problems that remain to be solved. So you have pretty much the main guy who's heading up the project for the digital currency in China, and he's pretty much admitting that they're still ages away from actually having it working to the degree they want. So, you know, we are definitely moving towards that age, but I think we're still a while away from that.
Yeah, wow. Okay, that's pretty intense. Because a lot of people do talk about blockchain, that it's, you know, it's going to save the day and it's going to be completely decentralized. But I don't think the government are going to give it up without a fight. I mean, I'm pretty sure that we're all aware of that. Now, are the digital currencies or cryptos, you know, clearly linked with the digital identities they're trying to do, or is that the dark side of crypto?
Well, I think it's not out of reach in the future where you can have a lot of these things exist on the blockchain. That's one of the best things about the blockchain. But as much as people want to look at the negative side of digital currencies, there will be positive sides to digital currencies. You know, let's say that they wanted to create a bit more of a money supply in times of need, or if there's been natural disasters. I mean, you could put limits on where those currencies could be spent. So if you hand out currencies to struggling families, you could put a limit. They could only spend that at grocery markets to get, you know, food for their family, where you could put blocks on that from them buying alcohol. So, you know, there are pros and cons to the digital currencies overall. It's just about how governments will use that within their own power.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks, Connor. Now, so we're talking about risk management here and a balanced portfolio, and only to put money into cryptos that you can actually afford to lose, because as you would be aware, Connor and Warren, being heavily involved in this space, things can rapidly change. Would you say that that's something that can happen in the crypto market?
That's an understatement, isn't it, Connor?
Yeah, talk to us about the experience of being, you know, in the crypto world, because many people are going to start. And, you know, I'm new to it myself, and I'm sure many others. What can a day in the life of being a crypto master look like?
I'll start this one.
I'd love to find out.
An interesting one was this week. I just saw all of my news feed and all the news articles filled everywhere with how much Meta had dropped in a 24-hour period. And it was quite substantial, especially for something like Meta. It was 20-odd%. But these people are like losing their minds. And I'm just laughing, thinking like 20% is what gets this worldwide. Like, you guys should be in crypto because things have gone worse way faster than that. So it's just interesting, the difference between the two markets.
Yeah, like cryptos, you can wake up and about a week later, you're 40 to 50% down on a crypto. It's just crazy. But equally, I remember that weekend with one of my cryptos where I literally went up, I think, 15 times in 3 days or something ridiculous. And I suddenly, just like that, I had like 93,000 US extra. So I just go, oh shit, I better sell it and get it quick, smart. And sure enough, it eventually pulled back a bit, you know, just it's crazy like that. But then equally, as you know, I've often told you a number of times, you're saying, oh my God, we've made some profits, because Connor and I do it together. And I said, yeah, about time to sell some. And he goes, oh, don't know if we should do that. I said, no, just, we've made some profits, let's take them out. And then, yeah, sometimes, of course, you see it keep going, but most of the time, once it's gone up a bit, it'll do a pullback. So,
yeah.
And you never go broke taking profits, do you, Warren?
Well, depends. I think yes and no. I think if you're taking profits too quickly, but then you let your losses run, then you'll go broke. So the answer is, if you take profits quickly and you also, crystallize losses quickly and cut them, you'll end up in front. So the secret is you being consistent. In fact, the ideal scenario is you kind of, cut your losses quickly and you let your profits run within limits. So of course, our rule is that once it's gone up, say 3 times, we'll always sell 1/3 or a bit more, even ideally, 40%, and get back our capital and a tiny bit more to cover costs. And then we leave the rest in. If it goes up 5 or 10-fold, like say 10-fold, then we'll pull out a bit more. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
But we're keen to get our capital back fast. And on very volatile cryptos, like we've had ones that literally doubled in 3 days, and then we just take it back and things like that. In fact, I had one crypto that went up 8 times in like about 2 weeks, which no one expected, including even the guy recommending it. And the guy did actually say, I would probably get out completely. So we just got out completely, and then it went down and it's never gone anywhere near that price again. So
Yeah. So it sounds very volatile, almost like
Very volatile. And sometimes, yeah, I mean, I'm giving you all the great stories, but I could equally tell you stories of where when COVID happened, I'm sitting there in absolute astonishment and horror watching my portfolio go,
yeah.
you know, I was like, oh, fuck. And that wasn't fun.
Yeah, yeah, but you stuck it in, stuck it out, and basically you're still, you're still operating, you're still going.
Well, within limits. I mean, I believe in sharing successes and failures. That one, I slightly overreacted, and I did keep quite a bit in, but I took out more in hindsight than I needed to. I just kind of thought, nah, this is going to go bad for a while. I mean, you lock down the world. And so I pulled out more in hindsight than I really needed to, and definitely cost me some significant gains I could have made. I learnt my lesson, and then basically 2021, when it shot right up, I crystallized out. When it really collapsed badly in about May and June, and I watched it literally drop like 20% overnight. I learnt this time, and I remember one day there was a flash crash, like crypto just kept going down and down. I remember looking in astonishment and going like, huh? And my first instinct was to go, shit, I better get out of everything. And I thought, okay, I did that mistake with COVID. Let's do the opposite to what my reaction's telling me. So I just bought in. I just bought a whole heap. And then it went down about another 10%. I'm like, and then literally it stopped. Next day I woke up, I was up 20%. Within a week, I had made a fair bit. I sold off a few of them, made 40%, 30% in about a week, So that time I learnt my lesson. But the point is, you do have to get good at handling volatility. And overall, I like to hold in there for the long term, but we do allow a bit of that short-term trading and taking profits quickly. That's my approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good to kind of share your failures as well, because that's how you get better at it. And same with structuring. So it's getting your structuring right and being okay with handling volatility.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Now, I'm just interested as well on who's actually watching, who's actually got a crypto portfolio, and has anyone here done, relatively well, or they're just the beginning? It's just really nice to see, who's watching and where they're at. So if you want to put it in the chat, you're more than welcome. We're going to take a few questions in a moment. And thank you, Irina. I can see that you have registered for the event. That's great. And also, if you could just let us know, have you registered for the event? Are you attending? Have you been sharing it out there? Because it's a completely free event. There's no other intention behind it than to educate people and, to really help people during this time, because Connor and Warren have absolutely been living in this crypto world and, been testing things. And if they've failed some, they've won some, but, we're ready to go on the journey all together. So it's really important just to let us know where you're at so we can help you as best as possible. Now, Connor, you are also, we'll just wait for a few people here. What are they saying first? All right. Yes, Aiden, you've got a portfolio. You've paid off 80%. Oops, okay. Some people have registered. Zena has some investments on Binance. Oh, it's going quite quick. Can anyone else see what's going on, or is it just moving too quickly for me? And Victor's just about to start crypto. Awesome. Okay, cool. Great. So make sure you register for the event, and make sure before you go and start, get set up correctly. So come and see us. Connor, can you share a little bit about the crypto course that you're also running, and just a little bit about, in that space, if people need more help and assistance, and also just some basic stuff, what you'll be covering at the event?
Absolutely. So we do run some crypto mentoring within Global Wealth Club. It's important to also recognize that if you're completely new to crypto, we have a bunch of free content on our membership site as well. So make sure you go and view that. We are building that library slowly over time. But if you are new to crypto and you're just looking at getting in, it's always good to cover the foundations. So we've got all the foundational stuff in some free content for you to view. Outside of that, we do run more personalized mentoring, as well as just a self-guided course as well. So if you are looking to really push on to that next level of cryptocurrencies, then don't hesitate to reach out and we can book in a call and have a chat together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And what I'll be covering at the course. So it's going to be what I'm going to be covering at the event we're holding on Feb. There's going to be some tricks and tips on how to get started in cryptocurrencies. We're going to look at the new possibilities and perspectives and the facts that make me and Warren think there's still a lot of gains to be made in cryptos over the next few years at least. And then we're also going to have a look at how laws and regulations have worked up until this point in Australia and what we're kind of expecting moving forward on that front.
Excellent. Connor, you're such a great teacher and you're really easy to listen to. not outside of any teaching, you know, quite, I wouldn't say that.
I'll take it.
No, we're really excited. We're very, very blessed to have you on the team. Thanks, Michelle. You've just registered. Everybody, if you have any specific questions, this is your time. We've got a couple more minutes left. What else have we got here about setting yourself up correctly? But I also just saw something. Let's talk about a little bit of scamming here. It can happen. If you're set up correctly, is that going to eliminate any chance of you being scammed, or can that just happen anyway? Because Lorraine, further up, had said that she'd been ripped off by about quite a big amount. Can anyone see that amount? Hang on, let me go away.
Yeah, I saw that before. So I'm awfully sorry to hear that, Lorraine. That must have been a very unpleasant experience. Can the structures that you set up for your cryptocurrencies prevent scamming? The answer is these are going to protect you from more of a level of government and taxes. Yeah. Those things are going to happen probably with a greater level of education. Now, I don't know Lorraine's specific situation and what was involved with that, so it's hard for me to say, but generally, the more versed you are in the basics and the understandings of privacy and security and what to look out for scamming and phishing with cryptocurrencies, a lot of that time you can avoid that. However, you know, I can understand firsthand why people sometimes do lose money in cryptocurrency scams, because a lot of them are really good. And you honestly, like, unless you really know what you're looking at, you wouldn't be able to spot it. I've had multiple emails I've almost clicked links on, which would have been pretty much robbed all of my software wallets on my desktop. Wow. And that was after being in crypto for a fair amount of time. So, you know, definitely education is one way to stop that on top of your structures as well.
Yeah, so it can absolutely happen. So I think, you know, just being vigilant as well and being well educated and being around good educators in this space. And most likely, I would probably say, if you find yourself in that position, maybe reach out to someone who's in that space before you go and click on the link. I'm sure that could help you. But
definitely.
Yeah, that's not good to hear. So we really hope that you're able to, because that's a massive amount. So it's, you know, there's a lot of risk here, but there's also a lot to gain. And yeah, if there's any other specific questions, please reach out. But Warren, if you want to add, sorry, I just got distracted by a comment. If you want to add anything really in this space to let us know what you're excited about the event, and any other final words, that would be fabulous.
Look, I think it's really good. I mean, we're doing the free event because, like I've said before, we like doing a lot of free stuff, because one of the reasons for that is that, as I see it, we live in a world where we become so commercialized and so monetized, people's trust in each other is broken down. It's something I don't particularly like and never have, you know. And one of the things that, from my studies of consciousness and stages and what's happening, is we're making a shift of consciousness over the coming years into a more benevolent social enterprise type of model. And one of the things I reckon why Facebook and Google got so big originally was a free platform that was inclusive and gave everyone an opportunity. And they charged people well. So I've kind of developed this philosophy myself that we give very big to help the world as a whole, but if people then want to utilize our services and specific advice for their personal interests, we're going to charge well, you know. And so the idea of the event is we will give our best, knowing that the majority of people will probably never do anything with us, because we do want to give you the best and make a difference, because we know that, you know, the small minority who end up working with us will, you know, more than make up for it. And really, this event, I'd strongly encourage everyone to come, because you will get good stuff. You know, if you register, take the time to turn up. If you can't come to all of it, watch the recordings, because I've got myself speaking, Connor speaking. I've also got a top creative, completely out of the box wacko accountant who's so out of the box. I just love her to bits. She's so funny. And then I've got my business partner, Vina, who's made millions out of cryptos, just bought herself a house for like 1.6 million the other day using her cryptos, you know, like literally from scratch, cat for cash. You know, she's a very, very good cryptocurrency investor. She's better than me, as is Connor, which is great. I prefer to have people better than me. And so you'll get to hear from really good people, give you a good start. We also don't, you know, I like to think as best as possible, there are some out there who are more traditional mainstream planners who'll just say, oh, it's too risky. Then you go to all the other people who kind of go, oh, no, just go and invest. And you know, we love to take what we call the balanced approach, where we educate you to follow still proven, tried, you know, investing, but bring cryptos into your life and then make sure you're structured correctly. So you walk away with a very balanced approach, which hopefully you'll be able to get some good value out of it. So, you know, come along and let the word get out.
Awesome. That was brilliant. Now we have a question here. In Portugal, it's zero capital gains tax for crypto. So can we move there to not get taxed? This was a question just sent earlier, so I'm just catching up on it.
Oh, that's kind of like asking, you know, can I go and buy a car to race at the racetrack? In other words, there's just so many factors to that. So Portugal's got a tax regime. There are ways to minimize taxes, but yeah, there's lots of ways to minimize your taxes. And moving offshore is just one way. And then there's many countries you can go to do that. So the short answer is you can do it, yes, but there's a lot to it because you've got to deal with taxes in that country, residency changes, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Lorraine, just to answer you there as well, if you want to reach out to us, the team, we can see what we can do to help you in regards to this space. I'll get the team to just send you our email. But if anyone is ever confused or not too sure how to reach out to us, you can always do so by email. It's support@globalwealthclub.com, and you'll always have someone to respond to you, or Facebook. You can always find us. Thanks, Ed, for putting that in the group. All right, and Connor, have you got any final, words or anything that you would like to share with us in regards to this space?
No, probably nothing then either. I'm obviously very honoured that, you know, Warren asked me to be a part of the event with the caliber of people that will be speaking. But even for myself that has a good understanding of this area, I am genuinely excited to listen to the people that we have speaking, specifically, you know, the accountant and Vina. No offense, Warren, I've heard you talk plenty of times. But, you know, those guys really know their stuff. And it's going to be a great opportunity to get a lot of information and then be able to ask questions live with them afterwards as well, which I think is going to be a phenomenal opportunity. So me personally, I am very excited for the event, not only to get to talk to everyone, but because of the information that's going to be presented, I think it's going to be really good.
Connor, I'm going to break up with you. Our relationship's over. Just thought I'd say that.
That's all right. I'm glad we made it publicly official then.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. I really feel it was a great conversation. I hope everyone got a little bit out of it. It's just a little bit of a teaser for what's to come. As Warren said, we really want to give education. We want to empower people. We want to make sure that you're making good decisions, you know, based on, you know, educating yourself and just, you know, being vigilant as well at the same time, not getting scammed. So thank you so much. Just to mention as well, tomorrow, Warren, myself, and Ed, are going to be doing a webinar. We're all about youth empowerment. I know Warren is super passionate. I'm super passionate. We all are. So if you have children, or if you're looking at this homeschooling place and you know that a lot of them right now are leaving school, feeling confused, they can't start, you know, certain jobs or traineeships because they're not going to be a part of a medical experiment, or they have been, but they still just want to think outside the box, please join with our webinar tomorrow. I think Ed's going to put the link down below. Thank you, Ed. Register for that. We need to empower the next generation. Also in cryptos, they need to learn. Also, you know, in all the other areas of the life, we need to empower them in their sovereignty to make sure that our future generation are going to be well equipped for what is to come. So the 26th, we will see you at the event, but we'll be back next week with Connor and Ed. And tomorrow, and Warren. And tomorrow is going to be so many people I've got to talk
the youth. I can't mention enough about the youth. I do agree. I every day I meet someone. Like I met a friend today who I haven't seen in a few years, and yeah, you know, I'd regard her as very awake. She herself is just refused point blank to, you know, be experimented on, and she said, "Yep, now all my kids have taken it because they wanted to work, they want to do their career." And as I said, look, I mean, kids are being trained by their parents to go and, you know, you got to get a job, you got to get a career, you got to go to uni, you've got to do this, you got to become a sports star. So then they're going like, well, I want to go to uni, I want to get a career, I want to be a sports star, I've got to go get jabbed. And yeah, it's hard to know what to do, really. And that's why I think, well, I don't know what I can do, if much at all, but at least if we can do this youth empowerment school and give people the option, you know, maybe that a small number of youth can kind of pick up, or some parents can find an alternate way, and maybe our younger generation of youth, there can be some hope for, you know, and we can make a difference. I mean, I'd like to think so anyway. You can just do your best, can't you, Jasmine?
Oh, that's it. Give it your best. Where there's will, there is a way. We will make sure that if the door closes, we will open up another one. There are opportunities everywhere. We need to, you know, support one another. So we can't wait to see you at the 26th. And please, the link is there for tomorrow. Come and join us and hear from Ed as well. He grew up with Warren, so let's really see what's happening.
Don't listen to anything he says. Ignore him. He's a little shit.
Yes, we'll probably end up muting him halfway through. No. All right, bless all of you. Thank you so much, Connor. Thank you so much, Warren. You know, you guys are a wealth of knowledge. We are so absolutely blessed to have you. And have a lovely night, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks, everyone.
To kick the habit that my mind